Welcome students to the topic temporomandibular joint and muscles of mastication. The competencies on this lectures they are: you should describe and demonstrate the articular surface, type and the movements of the temporomandibular joint, and describe and demonstrate attachment, direction of fibers, nerve supply and action of muscles of mastication. The learning objectives of today's lecture are: at the end of this lecture, the student should be able to describe the temporomandibular joint under headings such as type and articular surface, ligaments, relations, movements and muscle producing it, applied aspect of this TM joint. And you must know in detail about the muscles of the mastication and the lateral pterygoid muscle in detail. Coming to the temporomandibular joint is one on each side of the head, and it is a joint present between the temporal bone and the mandible bone, which allows the movements of the mandible during speech and the mastication. Basically, the temporal bone, it is the part of the cranial skeleton, and it is the joint present between the cranium and the head of the mandible. So it is a craniomandibular joint, and the temporomandibular joint, it is the bilateral component of this craniomandibular joint. The type of a joint, it is the condylar type of a synovial joint. As this surface, it is condylar in nature, it is the condylar variety of a synovial joint. The articular surfaces are: upper articular surface, it is formed by the depression which is called as the articular fossa or the mandibular fossa, and one eminence is called as the articular eminence or articular tubercle. So upper articular surface, it is formed from behind forward by the articular fossa and the articular eminence, whereas the lower articular surface, it is formed by the elliptical shaped head of the mandible. So this is the elliptical head of the mandible, this is the mandibular fossa, and this is the articular tubercle. So this upper and the lower articular surface, it is covered by the fibrocartilage, which forms this joint a typical variety. So as it is covered by the fibrocartilage, it is the atypical type of a synovial joint. Because of the presence of the intra-articular disc, the joint cavity, it is getting divided into upper compartment and the lower compartment. So upper compartment, it is also called as the meniscotemporal compartment, which allows the gliding movement, and the lower compartment, it is called as the meniscomandibular compartment, which allows the gliding as well as the rotatory movement of the temporomandibular joint. The temporomandibular disc. This is the diagram showing the temporomandibular disc with the red arrow. This is the part of the temporal bone which forms the upper articular surface formed by the articular fossa and the articular tubercle. The lower articular surface, it is formed by the head of the mandible. This is the attachment of the fibrous capsule to the joint and the presence of the intra-articular disc. Because of the presence of the intra-articular disc, this is again a complex type of a synovial joint. The parts of the intra-articular disc are from anterior side to posterior side. The parts are anterior expansion, anterior thick band, then posterior intermediate zone and the posterior band and bilaminar posterior region. The disc, it is attached peripherally at the peripheral annulus to the fibrous capsule. So this is the fibrous capsule shown with the green color, to which this intra-articular disc is getting attached. It is congruent with both the articular surfaces. Thus its upper surface, it is concavo-convex from before backward, whereas the lower or the inferior surface of the articular disc, it is concave in nature to accommodate this convex head of the mandible. The periphery of the disc, it is attached firmly with the fibrous capsule. The disc has the thick margin, and what is this disc? Intra-articular disc, it is nothing but the oval plate of fibrocartilage. Though it is termed as fibrocartilage, it is consisting of the many collagen fibers and the few cartilaginous cells. The central depression it is having central depression on the inferior surface. In sagittal section, the disc appears to possess a thin intermediate zone. So this is the thin intermediate zone. This is the thick anterior band, thick posterior band, and from this thick anterior band there is the expansion which is called as the anterior expansion, and posteriorly it is having the bilaminar posterior region. So this is fibroelastic in nature. The posterior region is divided into upper lamina, which is fibroelastic in nature, which is attached to the squamotympanic fissure. This is the squamotympanic fissure. And the lower lamina, it is the fibrous but inelastic in nature, and it is getting attached at the posterior aspect of the neck of mandible. So the parts are anterior extra expansion, anterior thick band, intermediate zone, posterior thick band, and posterior bilaminar zone. So you have to remember the oval plate of the fibrocartilage. Coming back to the ligaments. There are the 4 ligaments present. One is the fibrous capsule, then lateral or the temporomandibular ligament, which are the true ligaments, and 2 accessory ligaments. These are the spine of the sphenoid and stylomandibular forces. The 2 true ligaments, they are the fibrous capsule and the lateral temporomandibular ligament. The fibrous capsule, it is a fibrous sac which encloses the articular surfaces of the joint cavity. It is attached above to the articular tubercle and the articular fossa, whereas it is attached below to the neck of the mandible, fibrous capsule. The capsule, it is loose above the intraarticular disc, whereas it is tight below the intraarticular disc. The synovial membrane, it lines the inner aspect of the fibrous capsule. Coming to the next ligament is the lateral ligament or the temporomandibular ligament. It is a true ligament and formed as a result of thickening of lateral aspect of the capsular ligament. This results because of the thickening of the lateral aspect of the capsular ligament, so that it reinforces and strengthens the lateral aspect of the fibrous capsule. The direction of the fibers, it is directed downward and backward and attached above to the articular tubercle and to the root of the zygoma, and below it is attached to the posterolateral aspect of the neck of mandible. The accessory ligament is the spinomandibular ligament, which is attached above to the spine of the sphenoid, and it is attached below to the lingula and the lower margin of the mandibular foramen. It lies on the deeper plane away from the joint capsule. The spinomandibular ligament, it represents the unossified intermediate part of the Meckel's cartilage, which is the cartilage of the first pharyngeal arch. So it becomes accentuated and taut when the mandible is protruded. The relations of the spinomandibular ligament. So here the another ligament is the stylomandibular ligament, which is attached above to the styloid process and below to the ankle of the mandible. The stylomandibular ligament, it represents the thickened portion of the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, and it separates the parotid gland from the submandibular gland. So here is in the diagram, this is the spinomandibular ligament, this is the fibrous capsule, this is the lateral ligament of the TM joint, and this is the stylomandibular ligament. Again the same diagram with the presence of the mandibular nerve and the otic ganglion. These are the 2 roots of the auriculotemporal nerve present over here. We will see the relations of the spinomandibular ligament. What are its medial and what are its lateral relations? Laterally, this spinomandibular ligament, it is related to one muscle, that is called as lateral pterygoid muscle, the 2 roots of the auriculotemporal nerve, the maxillary artery, and this inferior alveolar nerve and the vessels. Whereas the medially, this spinomandibular ligament, it is related with the chorda tympani nerve, medial pterygoid muscle, and the wall of the pharynx. So these are the medial and the lateral relations of the spinomandibular ligament. One point to remember that at the lower end of the spinomandibular ligament, this is pierced by the masseteric mylohyoid nerves and the vessels. Coming to the relations of the temporomandibular joint, the TM joint, it is related laterally with the skin, superficial fascia, parotid gland, and the 5 emerging superficial branches of the facial nerve. Medially this is related with the tympanic plate, the spine of the sphenoid, spinomandibular ligament, maxillary artery, the 2 roots of the auriculotemporal nerve. These are the medial relations of the TM joint. Superiorly, it is related with the middle cranial fossa and the middle meningeal artery, whereas inferiorly, it is related with the maxillary artery. In its anterior relation, it is represented by the lateral pterygoid muscle and the masseteric nerves and the vessels, whereas it is related posteriorly with the post-auricular part of the parotid gland, the auriculotemporal nerve, and the superficial temporal vessels. Blood supply of the temporomandibular joint is by the two terminal branches of the external carotid artery, and these are the superficial temporal vessels and the maxillary vessels. So the arteries, these are the branches of the terminal branches of external carotid artery, and the superficial temporal vein and the maxillary vein, it unites to form a retromandibular vein. So these vessels, they get entered into the joint cavity at its posterior aspect. The nerve supply of this temporomandibular joint is by the two nerves. One is the auriculotemporal nerve and another one is the masseter nerve. The auriculotemporal nerve, its articular twigs enter the joint from its posterior aspect, whereas for the masseter nerves, its arterial twigs enter the joint from its anterior aspect. The lymphatic drainage of this TM joint is by the superficial parotid or the pre-auricular groups of lymph nodes, the deep parotid nodes and the upper deep cervical nodes. The stability of the joint. The joint is much more stable when the mouth is closed, that is, when the teeth are in occlusion, than when the mouth is open. In occlusion, the teeth themselves stabilize the mandible on the maxilla, and no strain is thrown on the joints when an upward blow is received on the mandible. So we will see what is the mechanism behind these movements of the mandible. As the mandible can move during the speech and the mastication, so the movements possible for the mandible, they are the elevation, depression, then protrusion, retraction, side to side movement in the chewing process. When the TM joint of the two sides is in position of a rest, there is a presence of small free space between the upper and the lower teeth, and the lips are in contact with each other. The lower jaw, it can be depressed, it can be elevated, protruded, retracted and moved from side to side by the movements at the temporomandibular joint. The mechanism of the movement is, all these above mentioned movements, they are mainly performed with the help of two basic movements. These are the gliding movements and the rotational movements. So gliding and the rotational movements, these are the two main movements. The upper meniscotemporal compartment, it allows the gliding movement only, whereas the lower meniscomandibular compartment, it allows the gliding as well as the rotational movement. So it can be performed along two axes, transverse axis for elevation and depression, and the vertical axis, it can be used during side to side movements such as chewing movements. With these two types of the movements, gliding and the rotation, and with the right and left temporomandibular joint working together, most of the movements of the lower jaw can be accomplished perfectly. So these include the opening of mouth, which is called as the depression. So this is the diagram showing the use of the different compartment during opening of the mouth. This is the diagram showing the movements during the opening and the closing of the mouth. If you want to open the mouth, there will be the forward gliding of the head of the mandible along with the articular disc, and in next processes there will be the rotation of the head of the mandible in a forward direction. So the mouth will be open completely, and the reverse of this action is nothing but the closing of the mouth, where there is a gliding backward of the head of the mandible. Also the head of the mandible, it rotates backward. So we will see each movement one by one what happens in the depression, that is lowering of the jaw to open the mouth. During depression, the head of the mandible along with the articular disc, it glides forward in the upper meniscotemporal compartment on both the sides by the contraction of lateral pterygoid muscle. So remember, the lateral pterygoid muscle is the only depressor muscle of this TM joint. At the same time, the head rotates forward underneath the articular disc by the contraction of the suprahyoid muscles, and these are the accessory muscles of the mastication. Again, one point to remember, that the gravity also helps in the opening of the mouth, that is the depression of the mandible. Elevation of the mandible is the elevation of the lower jaw, as in closing of the mouth. So here the head of the mandible, it glides backward in the upper meniscotemporal compartment by the temporalis, masseter and the medial pterygoid muscle, rest of the three muscles of the mastication except lateral pterygoid muscle. And then the head rotates backward on the lower surface of the disc by the posterior fibers of the temporalis muscle itself. Protrusion and the protrusion, or it is also called as the protraction. During this movement, the mandibular teeth move forward in front of the maxillary teeth. In this act, the head of the mandible along with the articular disc, it glides forward in the upper meniscotemporal compartment on both sides by the simultaneous action of the medial and the lateral pterygoid muscle. Next movement is the retraction. During this movement, the head of the mandible along with the articular disc, it glides backward in the upper meniscotemporal compartment by the contraction of posterior fibers of the temporalis muscle. And the side to side or the chewing movement, these movements occur alternately in the right side and the left side of the TM joint. In chewing movements, the head of the mandible of one side, it glides forward along with the disc as like in protraction, but the head of the mandible on the opposite side nearly rotates on the vertical axis. So this is the movement possible during chewing. What are the muscles producing the movement of the TM joint? This is the diagrammatic picture. This is the temporalis muscle, the lateral pterygoid, medial pterygoid and the masseter muscle. These are the four principal muscles of the mastication, whereas the digastric muscle, the mylohyoid and the geniohyoid, these are the suprahyoid muscles which are the accessory muscles of the mastication. So temporalis muscle, it elevates and retracts the lower jaw, which is called as the mandible. The lateral pterygoid muscle, it protrudes and depresses. This is the only depressor muscle. This is the lateral pterygoid muscle. The medial pterygoid, it elevates and it performs the protrusion and the side to side movement, whereas the masseter is the elevator of the mandible. So these are the muscles producing various movements, and the movements are shown here with the arrows. What are the clinical correlation of it? The palpation of the temporomandibular joint and associated muscle is the most important one. The bilateral palpation is must to assess the entire joint and its associated muscle. So for that you have to ask the patient to open and close the jaw for several times, then ask to move the open jaw to left and right to judge the side to side movement, and finally ask to move the jaw in a forward direction to check the protraction movement. The derangement of the articular disc, it will leads to pain during the movement, and this mainly occurs because of injury occurs during the overclosure or the malocclusion of the tip. If you want to perform a operation on temporomandibular joint, the care should be taken not to damage the facial and the auriculotemporal nerve, as these two nerves are the most important in this region, so not to damage the structures. Dislocation of the joint. The mandible, it is dislocated in only anterior direction. When the mouth is open, the mandibular condyles move forward and lie underneath the articular eminence. They lie underneath the articular eminence. This is the most unstable position of the joint. So dislocation of the mandible, it can occur anteriorly only. To reduce the dislocation, the condyle must be lowered and pushed back behind the summit of the articular eminence. So this can be done by depressing the jaw with the thumb placed on the last molar tip and simultaneously elevating the chin. These two movements you have to perform simultaneously to reduce this dislocation of the joint. Next is the temporomandibular joint syndrome. It can occur during any infection present surrounding to this joint. So the symptoms will be, if there is the spasm of the masseter, you can have the diffuse facial pain. If there is a spasm of the temporalis muscle, you will be having headache. Due to spasm of the lateral pterygoid muscle, there is the presence of the jaw pain as well as the joint pain. Coming to the next part of today's lecture is the muscles of the mastication. The characteristics features of these muscles of the mastication are: they are concerned with the movements of the mandible at the temporomandibular joint during mastication process. They share common features like all are located in and around the infratemporal fossa, all are inserted into the ramus of mandible, all are innervated by the mandibular division of the trigeminal nerve, all are concerned with the movements of the mandible on the temporomandibular joint, and the last point is all are developed from the mesoderm of the first pharyngeal arch. So broadly, these muscles are divided into two groups, the principal muscles and the accessory muscles. There are presence of four principal muscles. These are the temporalis, masseter, medial pterygoid and the lateral pterygoid, whereas the accessory muscles are the digastric, buccinator, mylohyoid and the geniohyoid muscle. We will see each principal muscle one by one. The temporalis, it is a large fan-shaped muscle which is originating from the floor of the temporal fossa, and few fibers are taking origin from the inner aspect of the temporal fascia. These fibers get converged, they form a tendon, and that tendon will passes through a gap present between the zygomatic arch and the skull bone, being inserted at the medial surface and the anterior border of the coronoid process of ramus of mandible. So this is the insertion which goes up to the third molar tip. Make a note that the anterior fibers, they are arranged vertically, the posterior fibers, they are placed horizontally, whereas the middle fibers, they are running obliquely. And all these fibers, they will converge to form this green part, which is called as the tendon, to be getting inserted at the anterior border and the medial surface of the coronoid process of the mandible. These are supplied by the deep temporal nerves, and its action is to elevate and to retract the mandible. Next muscle is the masseter muscle. It is having three layers: superficial layer, middle layer, and the deep layer. The superficial layer, it is originating from the maxillary process of the zygomatic bone and from the anterior 2/3 part of the lower border of the zygomatic arch. The direction of the fibers, it is directed downward and laterally at an angle of 45 degrees to get inserted at the lateral surface of the ramus of the mandible. The middle and the posterior fibers or the deep fibers, they are getting originated from the anterior 1/3 and posterior 1/3 part of the lower border of the zygomatic arch, and the deep fibers, they are originating from the inner surface of the zygomatic arch. They are inserted at the lateral surface of the ramus of mandible. The nerve supply is by the masseteric nerves, which are the branch of the anterior division of the mandibular nerve, and its action is to elevate the mandible. For the exposure of the lateral and the medial pterygoid muscle, you have to cut the zygomatic arch. First line should be here, second will be here. After cutting this zygomatic arch, next part is to cut the coronoid process. So we will expose the lateral pterygoid muscle. These are the two heads of the lateral pterygoid muscle. This muscle is the key muscle of this region, because knowing the relations of this lateral pterygoid muscle will give a fair idea about the layout of the structures present in this infratemporal region. And this is the medial pterygoid muscle, which is shown with the blue arrow. The muscles involved in the mastication, its posterior view. These are the two muscles: the lateral pterygoid muscle, which is originating from the lateral surface of the lateral pterygoid plate and inserted at the pterygoid fovea, and this is from the medial surface of the lateral pterygoid plate inserted at the inner aspect of the ramus of the mandible. We will see in detail about these muscles. The medial pterygoid muscle, it is having superficial head and the deep head. The superficial head is originating from the maxillary tuberosity, whereas the deep head is originating from the medial surface of the lateral pterygoid plate. This is the lateral pterygoid plate. The fibers, they are going to be inserted at the roughened area present on the inner aspect of the ramus of mandible. It is supplied by the nerve to medial pterygoid, which is the branch from the main trunk of the mandibular nerve. The actions, various actions performed by this medial pterygoid, these are: it elevates the mandible, it protrudes the mandible, it will perform the side-to-side movement along with the lateral pterygoid muscle. The superficial relations of the medial pterygoid muscle, this is the medial pterygoid muscle. The superficial relations are the inferior alveolar nerve and inferior alveolar vessels, and this is the lingual nerve, which comes in the superficial relations of the medial pterygoid muscles. The lateral pterygoid muscle, as I have told you, this is the key muscle of this region. It is having the upper head and the lower head. The upper head is originating from the infratemporal surface of the greater wing of the sphenoid bone and the infratemporal crest of the greater wing of the sphenoid bone. So these are the two parts of the greater wing of the sphenoid bone: infratemporal surface and infratemporal crest. And the lower head is originating from the lateral surface of the lateral pterygoid plate. The fibers will passes backward and laterally. The upper head is inserted at the fibrous capsule and the intra-articular disc, whereas lower head will form a tendon going to be inserted at the pterygoid fovea, which is the anterior aspect of the head of mandible. The relations of the lateral pterygoid muscle, few structures, they are emerging from the upper border of the lateral pterygoid muscle, few are emerging from the lower border of the lateral pterygoid muscle, and few structures, they pass between the gap present between the two heads. So from the structures emerging at the upper border, these are the deep temporal nerves, deep temporal arteries, and the masseteric nerves, whereas the structures emerging at the lower border, these are the lingual nerve, inferior alveolar nerve, and inferior alveolar vessels, and this is the middle meningeal artery, which is the branch of maxillary artery. The structures which passes through the gap present between the two heads, this is the buccal nerve. So buccal nerve is the only sensory branch from the anterior division of the mandibular nerve, and this is the second part which runs obliquely. This is the second part of the maxillary artery. So horizontal part running is the first part, this is the second part, and third part will enter through the pterygomaxillary fissure into the pterygopalatine fossa. That will be the third part of the maxillary artery. This is the summarization of the topic. The structures emerging at the upper border they are the deep temporal nerves and the masseter nerves. Structures emerging at the lower border are the lingual nerve and artery, inferior alveolar nerve, and middle meningeal and accessory meningeal arteries. The structures passing through the gap between the two heads is the maxillary artery and buccal branch of the mandibular nerve, which comes out, whereas maxillary artery it enters the gap. So the lateral pterygoid muscle, it is supplied by nerve to lateral pterygoid, which is again the branch of anterior division of the mandibular nerve. The actions possible, these are along with the medial pterygoid, it will protrude the mandible, it will do the side to side movement, and one point is the lateral pterygoid muscle is the only depressor of the mandible. So these are the four principal muscles of the mastication, and these are the temporalis, masseter, medial pterygoid, and the lateral pterygoid muscle. In the depression movement, the accessory muscles, these are the suprahead muscle, it can help the mandible in the depression movement, and these are the digastric, buccinator, mylohyoid, and the genioid. What are the movements possible that we have seen? So these are the points to